In year 6, season 2, we were introduced seasons 2.0. What this did is it gave us a new seasonal journey, it gave us priority objectives, but more importantly, the most important thing is it now gave us seasonal modifiers. And the reason why this is so important is because during any PvE session, your group leader can turn these on or off whenever they please. So it is a good thing to know which modifiers you want to go for immediately, and maybe you matchmake into one of these groups with it activated. You know which ones to equip and why with your certain build. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down all these modifiers because I know that there are some PvP matches that I'll join into and all of a sudden the modifiers are active. There's some PvE groups that I'll matchmake into and modifiers are just all of a sudden active. And I guess I'm kind of like pushed into a corner where I just have to equip them immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you which ones that I go for, which are the best modifiers to go for and why for each type of build. And then that way, if this ever happens to you, you know exactly what to do. All right, let's get started. What's going on YouTube? Kamikaze Von Doom here with another Division 2 video, so sit back, relax, grab that popcorn, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. But that's right, Seasons 2.0 explained, and we are talking about modifiers because if you've been watching any of my recent gameplay clips or streams, you'll notice that sometimes I'll have my modifiers on, sometimes I won't, and it's all dependent on what group I play with. Because once I completed the seasonal journey, I decided to just keep the modifiers off. But I will admit that even sometimes in PvP, I'll find that my team has them on or the enemy has them on. And sometimes when I matchmake for PvE, the group leader will have the modifiers on. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you which modifiers to go for, which ones to stay away from, because there are some modifiers that will completely jack up your build and make the enemies hit you even harder than they already will with these hostile modifiers. So I hope you're, relaxed, and I hope you have that popcorn ready because this is going to be a good one. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the activating and deactivating of your modifiers, okay? So between your specialization and your watch, you have your modifiers. Now, this is something you can turn on and off. So right here, it's deactivated, and right here, it is now activated, okay? Now, one thing a lot of people might not know is that if you deactivate it, right, just like this, where I can't change my modifiers, it's all deactivated, nothing's going to hurt me, and I go to matchmake for like a random mission on heroic or what have you, the group leader might have the modifiers activated. Therefore, whatever modifiers I left on this build, it will immediately activate and put on my current build once I join that group that have them activated. So the first thing to do is if you really don't want to play with your modifiers, you would take off all of these modifiers, right? And then that way, you never have this issue ever. See? And now I deactivated it. And now if I matchmake with anybody and I see the modifiers are on, I can then put whatever modifiers I want in the correct slot. Because if you keep modifiers in there and say you join a random game that has it activated, that could really hinder your build if you don't have the right ones already in the slots that you need. So this is how I typically have my character set up. That way, if I ever do join a group that have them activated, it'll look like this. And then I can just plug and play whichever modifiers I want. And then that's where we go into the next part of the video is what modifiers to go for and which ones to stay away from. Now, starting at the top, we have our global modifier, right? This is never going to change for this season. It's a seasonal modifier, and it will change as soon... Well, let's see. How many more weeks do we have? We have 10 weeks, so a month and a half, all right? A little bit more than a month and a half. So during this, next 10 weeks, we have the point blank modifier. Now, this modifier is just range based, but it does increase your damage no matter what. So, short range, you'll see the enemies as a blue, and that will be 1.2 times your damage. So, it's amplified by 1.2. If you see the enemy yellow, that means they're in medium range. Now, that will amplify your damage by 1.35. And then finally, if you see enemies that are red, those enemies are at long range, and that will amplify your damage by 1.5 times. Pretty cool, right? And that is just during this season, so everything is range based. So you could go super sniper, you could go super run and gun SMG, you could go medium range God with the AR. There's so many different possibilities with this, but you have amplified damage nevertheless, right? Pretty cool. So that will never change no matter what. As far as the active modifiers, these active modifiers, you do have three. You have reversal, prime time, and all out. The only way to get active modifiers is to do your seasonal journey. So your seasonal journey, I believe, which one? There we go, number 4. So seasonal journey mission 4 will give you reversal. Seasonal journey mission 5 will give you prime time, and seasonal journey mission 6 will give you all out. So as soon as you reach journey mission 7, you will have all of the active modifiers. Now, what makes these modifiers so good? Which ones to go for and why? Okay. So right off the bat, what I'm going to say is you would either want to go for reversal or all out. I would stay away from prime time. I will never use prime time unless it's for a specific seasonal journey like activity. I don't use it, okay? The reason why I like reversal and all out is because these talents really help you out where the prime time, it kind of constricts you down to just medium range. So reversal. Why I like this is probably my favorite, maybe. Reversal, you swap the damage bonuses. So remember, your global modifier, the damage bonuses were 1.2 for short, 1.5 for long. With reversal, you could switch those. So then you get 1.5 for short, and it's increased by another 25%. Now, this duration can be extended for each headshot you get within the two distances up to a maximum of 100% of that duration. Wicked. So basically, what you can do is have reversal on, right? This is what I do with my SMGs and my really, really hard-hitting builds. I put this combination together. This is my close range run and gun god setup. The reason for it is right here with impatient. It drops your magazine size a little bit, but it raises your rate of fire and reload, right? Well, not only that, but with liability, that increases my damage to armored enemies within short range. Not only that, but then if you use the reversal, it'll swap short and long, just the bonuses. And then you get more damage on top of that with persistence. And persistence, if I get a kill in short range, I get 20% movement speed. So then it's basically like the Lady Death effect, where I get a kill within short range and I get movement speed. And that is amazing. It's only for 5 seconds, but it's really good. I enjoy it a lot. So this would be like my setup for, short range run and gun. Pretty cool, right? Or if you already unlocked it, use the all out because I really like the all out. All out doesn't swap anything, but it increases it, okay? So it says when activated, you have 10 seconds to eliminate any enemy at any range. The zone that the enemy was killed in will now count for the full range spectrum. But this effect will slowly decrease. For each 5% it decreases, you receive 5% increased weapon damage. Eliminating each enemy will restore 2.5% of this effect. This is probably my favorite if you have it unlocked. Reversal is the very first one you unlock, but All Out, this is the moneymaker. So what you do is you run up to the enemy with All Out and you pop that as soon as you get close enough to them within short range, because it counts. It says that once you kill that enemy at that range, it will now count for the full range spectrum for those enemies for the duration. And when your duration's ticking away, you get more and more damage as it's ticking away. Pretty cool. So then you keep them at short range, you do all your damage, you get your movement speed, and you're good to go, right? And this is just one build setup, just right here. Boom. And then I deactivate it, and then that way, this is basically like a loadout. And then whenever I join a group that has it activated, boom, it'll activate it exactly the way I want, right? Pretty cool. But there are drawbacks, because with Impatient, that takes away your standard magazine size by 50%. So if you're using something like the Lady Death, you're going to have no ammo in your magazine. If you're going to use something like the Bighorn or the Capacitor, again, you're not going to have any magazine size because it's already going to cut it down. Yeah, you might hit harder and it might shoot faster, but you're going to have no ammo to use because this takes 50% of it. But for other weapons like the Pestilence, like the St. Elmo's Engine, things with already big magazine sizes, this makes those weapons godly because it cuts down the amount of ammo you're shooting through before a reload, and it makes you hit extremely harder. Extremely harder. I love it. For the St. Elmo's Engine, it goes from like 70 rounds to like 58, something like that. And then for the Pestilence, it goes from like 100 down to, 58, something like that. I mean, it's really not that bad. Not that bad at all. Remember, it's just your standard magazine size. It's not with the actual, weapon itself. Each weapon has a different standard, size, and then you have your magazine attachment for each of them. All right. Anyways, back to the modifiers. Now, for the active modifiers again, reversal if that's the only one you have active, but I would go for All Out. I would stay away from prime time because prime time, once you trigger it, all your equipped passive modifiers become effective only for medium range. It's all medium range based. I get it. I know there's a lot of people that try to just stay in that medium range, comfort zone, but the enemies will run at you, they'll run away, and once they exit out of those ranges, it completely negates the whole meaning of this. So I would try to stick with the short range or long range. That would be your best bet for your active modifiers. As far as your passive modifiers, right? So your active modifiers you unlock during your seasonal journey, but these passive modifiers are a little bit harder to come by. And I say a little bit harder, but it's more just time consuming. It's really not harder than the seasonal journey. The seasonal journey is pretty rough. But these priority objectives, you have to find them where the reward says passive modifier. Now, the cool thing is that you can abandon any priority objective once an hour. So you can see right here, I just unlocked this and it says score 3 kills in conflict. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play conflict. And then I can easily just abandon it. And there we go. Then we can go for another one, right? Not only that, but if you complete a certain number of priority objectives, it will give you a reroll capacity. So you can re-roll these options until you find one with passive modifiers. So now that you know how to get your passive modifiers, let's talk about your passive modifiers. There are 3 passive modifiers for short range, 3 for medium range, and 3 for long range. However, there are 3 multi-zone modifiers. The multi-zone modifiers, you can only have 1 at a time. It will not allow you to equip more than 1 at a time. Now, as far as the short range modifiers, for each of these categories, I like 2 out of the 3 for each of these categories. And there's one that I don't like. And let me tell you why. or one that has some sort of disadvantage. So for short range, right, you have liability, impatient, and drawback. If you were to join a group that has modifiers active and you don't want to do any sort of extra damage or anything like that, you could easily just put on drawback and you're good to go. What that does is it increases your weapon handling. It doesn't really do anything else, so you're good to go, right? It doesn't make you hit any harder. It just makes you work a little bit, easier. As far as impatient, impatient is the one that takes away that standard magazine size. It reduces it by 50%, but it increases your rate of fire and reload by 30%. It's a really good modifier, really fun to use. It increases your RPM. It feels fun. It sounds fun. It is fun. However, it's only fun for certain types of weapons. So again, something with a really high magazine size that's out the gate, that way you don't lose too much ammo. If you're using something with a very low magazine size, it's going to make it even lower, and it's going to be really hard to use the weapon. So I probably would not use this with something like the Lady Death, the Capacitor, or the Bighorn. Now, finally, liability. Think of liability as glass cannon, if you will, because this one hurts you a lot. So it says you deal 30% more damage to armored enemies within short range. However, the damage received from armored enemies is increased. So if you're wearing this and an armored enemy is beaming you from across the map, it's going to really, really hurt. So it's kind of like a hit and miss with this talent or with this modifier because the talent hurts you a lot. It really does. It hurts you a lot because you'll have the armored enemies just shoot you from long range while you're shooting other armored enemies, or maybe you'll have a boss that you're shooting, but then he comes with two other armored enemies, and then those two armored enemies are shooting you. It's just a lot of additional incoming damage, and those armored enemies are already doing a lot of damage. So unless you're prepared for this, I don't know if you want to use it. But what I do is I use both of these together with a run and gun build with really high damage output, and then I just kill them before they can even really shoot me because I know they're going to do more damage towards me. And if you're wearing glass cannon with this, it's even worse. So just remember that liability with glass cannon, it hurts a lot. Trust me. So if you don't want any sort of bonuses and you just want just a positive thing, just put on drawback. You get more weapon handling, you'll be happy. But as far as damage, I would go with liability and impatient. But just remember that takes away some magazine size and increases your incoming damage. All right, moving on to medium range, right? So medium range, we have one that increases your crit, one that lowers your skill cooldown, and one that gives you stability, okay? So out of the three, I would probably go for Retribution for one, because that builds up a stack. You get crit. That's super good. You could spec everything into crit hit damage instead of crit chance because you know you're getting crit chance right here. That would be legit. This gives you 50% crit chance, so you could literally put on everything on crit damage and just use this modifier. It's a really good modifier to use, and it's medium range. So you could use this with like the St. Elmo's engine and just mow things down, or the Lexington, something like that. It's a really good modifier. The next one, it's only based off of crits, okay? So you could use these two together, but I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend it. Quicken is probably my least favorite because it's only off of your crit hits, and it's only 3% of your skill cooldown, so it's really not a lot. Now, yes, it could help, and yes, it does help, but, something maybe like the stability pressure piston or retribution with all the extra crit would be the way to go. The way that I typically do my setups is I'll do two of a certain zone and then I'll put on one multi-zone because remember, once you pick one multi-zone, you can't put on another one. So you want at least one multi-zone modifier to help out your overall build. Now, as far as the pressure piston, though, stability at medium range, perfect. It really is perfect. Pressure piston is a real, so pressure piston and drawback, both of these are really good. So that gives you stability through medium range, and then drawback gives you weapon handling through short range. I mean, you could just have laser beams, right? And then let's jump over to the long range. So long range, we have by the teeth. So this one, for each shot to the body, you increase your damage, and then the multiplier keeps growing and then every time you get that headshot, it'll reset it. Kind of like what, Liberty, right? Isn't that the Liberty? The exotic pistol? Like you shoot them in the body, and then you shoot them in the head and it takes it all away, right? Pretty sure. So this one's not bad. I mean, it does increase your damage. So you keep shooting them in the body and then go for the head, and then you get like a, one shot kill kind of deal. Not bad. It's not the best in the world, and I'm not a big fan of it, but it does help for snipers that don't typically go for just headshots. But for snipers that do just go for headshots, Tapper. But Tapper has a huge drawback, okay? So Tapper for long range, right? Because we're in the long range for your snipers and your rifles. Tapper is headshot is increased by 150%, but your body shots deal greatly reduced damage. Now they say greatly reduced, it's ridiculous. It is so reduced to where it's not even worth it unless you are really good at headshots. If you're really good at headshots, this is the best modifier in the game. But if you're not good at headshots, this is a really crap modifier. Just letting you know right now. And then finally, Call of the Week, or Call the Week. So this one, each headshot behind cover will give you more damage. This is the most user-friendly of all of them. In fact, I would go for By the Teeth and Call the Week before Tapper. Just because I'm not a straight-up just headshot guy, I do typically hit them in the body. And finally, we have our multi-zones. So Persistence is my favorite because it's short range. Modifier gives you movement speed. But I will admit that that's only for short range. So I use Persistence exclusively for my short range builds because of that movement speed. Outside of that, you only get accuracy or reload. It's really not worth it. I don't care. So outside of the short range, don't use it. But if you're running gun with a short range, definitely use it. It's Lady Death without ever having the Lady Death. Next one up, we have Peak Engineering. So this one is my least favorite of the multi-zones. It's only having to do with skill builds, and it's only for your assault turret and sniper turret. I'm not a big fan of it. I will admit that I don't use it, but I'm not a big fan of the, I guess, the part where it takes away from your slots. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being biased now that I'm thinking about it. Because you could use this on your skill builds. I'm not a fan of the modifier system at all for skill builds because you're so weak, and then those hostile modifiers really kick your ass. I mean, sorry, excuse my language. But as far as skill builds go and modifiers, you will get screwed over because some of the hostile modifiers will make your skills do nothing really. And then having that on top of them hitting you harder and your skill build, so you're kind of weak. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like a sniper turret hybrid? Maybe that could work. Maybe. But again, I'm just not a big fan of it. And finally, we have bait and switch. So this one, you gain hazard for each short and medium range enemy that's around you for 5 seconds. Pretty cool. But I don't know. It's not a big deal. It's hazard. Let's be real. It's hazard. So that's why I go with persistence. If I'm going to do anything at all, I go for persistence. Yes, bait and switch is okay. I would take bait and switch over peak engineering, but persistence is the way to go, in my opinion. So my favorites for each of these, I like liability just because I also like glass cannon. I like to do a lot of damage. So that's my favorite out of these three. Impatient is really good, but it's only good for certain weapons. It'll cut down your magazine size. I keep saying that, because I've really seen people get screwed over. They're like, yo, I only have 20 bullets. And it's like, yeah, dude, what's your modifier? So liability is my favorite there, but just watch out for the incoming damage. For the medium range, right? My favorite is a pressure piston. I typically play on console. I do like to play on controller, and having that increase in stability due to your crit is amazing. I typically like to use high crit, so this just gives me more stability, and I'm just shooting laser beams, dude. I mean, it's amazing. If you're hitting your shots, you're doing a lot of damage. I mean, come on. And if you have a lot of crit, you want that stability. So it's kind of, the best one in my opinion. For the long range, the best one in my opinion is Call the Weak, because you just sit and cover, you hit your headshots, you get your extra damage, you're good to go. I mean, that's it. Build up your stacks and you're one hitting everything. Do that with Determined and Headhunter, you're good to go. Really. And then as far as the multi-zone, again, Persistence is the best one in my opinion. Now, back to the active modifiers. The best one, in my opinion, is All Out, but I know that a lot of people will only have Reversal, and that is a really good one to use as well. Just remember, when you do that, it flips the long range and short range for a limited time, so you got to get those kills pretty quick, okay? And that, let's see, and then make sure these are all, enabled, and then deactivate it. Boom. And then that way you don't have any modifiers on your build at all. And then you can go in and put in whatever modifiers you want for each build. Pretty cool, right? All right, I tried so hard to make that a short video. It is a lot of information. I understand it's like a fire hose of information. I'm trying to give it to you in the best way possible. So let me know if you have any questions. If I didn't cover something for you that you need more information on, I will gladly let you know. But again, to get those modifiers, you have to do the seasonal journey and the priority objectives. And that is it, everyone. Happy hunting, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye, Dean, and peace out. Oop, the kids are in the background going crazy. All right, let's go.